What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are doing another season preview today for High Limit Racing. The season will be starting here in about a month's time now, so a few weeks away from getting things underway at East Bay. Today we're going to be talking about Parker Price Miller, who will be driving his family-owned number 9P car full-time for the 60-race campaign. At the time of this recording, Parker Price Miller, 25 years old. His car will be crew chief this year by Bernie Stuebgen. Now let's take a look at the last couple of seasons for Parker Price Miller. First 2 years we'll be looking at are with the World of Outlaws, and the second 2 years are going to be with the All-Stars. So in 2020, Parker Price Miller is driving the Phil Dietz number 14 car as a team car to, at the time, David Gravel, who was in the number 41. Parker was running the 14 car. And he ran every single race, but did not declare at the beginning of the season to be a full-time Outlaw driver, so did not get all the benefits, did not get points money or anything like that, but he did run all of the races. So in 54 starts, he did miss the show 8 times, so 46 A main events. He did get a victory along the way, 5 top 5 finishes, 23 top 10s. He was 9th in points, and he had 37 laps led. Now, I said he's 9th in points, and I said that the points don't count. He did not get the prize money from finishing 9th in points, but he was out all those races to still finish in that position. So that's really the only year, I would say, in these 4 years where Parker Price Miller actually ran an entire season and did not have something go wrong to where he had to fall off the tour or anything like that. So, and that brings me to the next year, which is 2021. That year, he's actually driving his family-owned number 19 car at the time, and this year they are going to go for Rookie of the Year with the Outlaws. So they start the season out at Volusia, but along the way, they don't make it all the way through the season. So as you could tell, only made 35 features in 77 appearances, made it about, I would say, 20-ish races into the season before they started missing a couple of shows, and then they showed up later on in the year to hit some, hit or miss a couple of other shows along the way. So 0 wins in those 35 starts, 0 top 5s, 10 top 10s, obviously not no points to be looking at, and 10 laps led. So then in 2022, he is going to go what looks to be full-time with the All-Stars, and around this time is also when he was diagnosed with the cancer, obviously, that took him out of the seat for a little bit of time. But in 2022, they are going to go full-time with the McGee Motorsports number 11 on the All-Star Tour. So they go for 34 of the races, and then something happens. I can't remember. A lot of stuff happens in sprint car racing. It's hard to remember who lost a ride or who got hurt or whatever happened, mutually parted ways or whatever. But they don't make it all the way through the 2022 season. But in those 34 starts, 2 wins, 14 top 5s, 23 top 10s. He was 9th in points and had 45 laps led. So a pretty good year, 23 top 10s and 34 starts. I would have liked to seen what they would have done if he made it throughout the entire season with the All-Stars that year, but obviously we will never know. So 2023 comes around, and Parker Price Miller runs 26 races this time, 26 A mains, I should say, out of 45 with the All-Stars. Does not run for points with the All-Stars, and at one point in time actually was filling in for the injured Zeb Wise in the Rudine Racing number 26 car. He also ran a couple of races with the Kevin Newton 16TH. He's ran a couple of other races with some other teams as well. He was kind of in a whole bunch of different cars, but for the majority of 2023, he was in the 9P, which we will see him driving with High Limit in 2024. So in those 26 starts, 8 top 5s, 17 top 10s, and 24 laps led. So no wins with the All-Stars in 2023. Let's dive a little bit deeper into the stats of those 4 seasons in 2020. The one season where he did run an entire season, minus 55 in the feature events, so he was losing more positions in the feature events than he was gaining. He had an 8.8 qualifying average, which is pretty impressive. 16 dash appearances and 10 appearances in a last chance showdown or a B main, whichever one you would like to call it. 2021, he was plus 13 in the features with the Outlaws, but the qualifying average dipped back down to a 14.4. He had only 4 dash appearances and 16 B main appearances in 2021. So you could tell going from the Philip Dietz prepared car to the family-owned car from 2020 to 2021 definitely affected that qualifying average greatly between those 2 years. Now with the All-Stars in 2022, minus 76 in the features for the plus-minus, but look at that qualifying average of 7.1. He was very good in the McGee Motorsports number 11 car for that short time that he was in that machine. 27 dash appearances in 34 A main events. That's pretty darn good. I mean, only missed the dash 7 times and was never in the B main event. So I think these 2 years show you right here, the one with the McGee car and the one with the Philip Dietz prepared car, that if Parker Price Miller is in a good race car, then he can perform. We've seen him get wins in those 2 years. We've seen him have a great qualifying average, a lot of top 10s, a lot of top 5s. But when he gets back in the family car, it seems like something quite isn't right. But he has never had that family car on a full-time basis with a crew chief like Bernie Stuebgen, and so that could change things. 2023 last year, minus 33 in the feature events, a 10.4 qualifying average, which is still pretty good. 13 dash appearances and 2 B main appearances with the All-Stars just last season. Now, jumping over to that side of the board, big wins for Parker Price Miller in his career. Ohio Sprint Speed Week win, that was at Fremont a couple years ago. He has 2 World Outlaws wins, one at Hobstadt, or the Tri-State Speedway in Indiana, and one at the 34 Raceway. The 34 Raceway one was the one in 2020 when he was driving for Phil Dietz. He also has a 360 Nationals prelim win. That was just last season at Knoxville. I know that's a 360 race, but 360 Nationals is a pretty big deal. He also has 2 Canadian Nationals wins at Ohsweken. That's another 360 race, but a pretty big event up there in Canada. He's won that one twice. And right below that, he has 3 All-Star wins, 2 Outlaw wins, 4 IRA wins, 8 MOA wins, and a win with NOSA. So he's won with a lot of the big touring 410 sprint car series. I can't really think of another one that's not on that list. Maybe King of the West, but that's not a. I mean, it's a pretty big series, but it's nothing like, you know, the Outlaws, the All-Stars, IRA, MOA. Those places are pretty good competition. So some of the big wins for Parker Price Miller. He does have more wins, but those are kind of the marquee ones I wanted to mention here today. Now, let's jump into the SprintCarRatings.com. 27th overall for the last 2 years for Parker Price Miller. In that time span, he does have 4 410 wins. And as of right now, as of this recording, we have 16 full-time drivers with high limit, and 10 of them are on that list that are above him in those rankings. So that would mean that if you just look at SprintCarRatings.com, Parker Price Miller would be the 11th best driver according to SprintCarRatings.com with high limit coming up in 2024. Now, in the strengths department for Parker Price Miller, I would say qualifying is definitely a big strength for him. As you can tell, these 4 years right here that we looked at, the worst season that he had was a 14.4, and that was driving his family-owned car, the 19, and they had a lot of struggles that year, fell off the Outlaw Tour, and could not really figure it out. But these other 3 years, qualifying at least 10th or better every single season, that's pretty good. I also wanted to mention that in his career, 14 World of Outlaws Quick Time Awards and 9 with the All-Stars. So that's a pretty good ratio. I mean, that's a lot of Quick Time Awards for Parker Price Miller in a relatively short amount of time. Now, another strength, he has raced a lot in the regions that High Limit will be visiting in 2024. New York, California, in the Oklahoma, Texas area, obviously in the Midwest as well. So he's been to a lot of the racetracks already that the High Limit Series is going to be going to, which a lot of his competitors that he's going to be racing around for in points can't say the same, so I think that'll definitely help him a little bit. Also, having Bernie as his crew chief is going to be huge. Parker always seems to want to have Bernie as his crew chief when it is possible, and it's huge that he's able to get Bernie to come out on the road for 60 races, because we know Bernie owns Indy Race Parts. We know he's a very busy guy. We know he's worked with a lot of different guys here over the last couple of years. Corey Eliason, Shane Stewart, some other guys that he's been putting in his own car. So it sounds like, I mean, maybe that 71 car is kind of going to be on pause while he goes on the road with Parker Price Miller to try and get him going in the High Limit Series. So Parker is very comfortable with Bernie, and I think that is going to be a huge advantage for him as well. And Parker is used to the road. So, I mean, you can look at how many races that he's ran over the last 4 years. He ran a full season with the Outlaws in 2020. I know that's COVID year, not exactly the full season that we're used to seeing, 70-plus races with the Outlaws, but he's been up and down the road. He's been to a lot of racetracks. He's used to that. He's used to the grind, and that will definitely help him in the long run. Now, when it comes to the weakness department for Parker Price Miller, he seems to start up front a lot, but he can't stay up there, and we see that a lot with these qualifying averages, 7.1, 8.8, 10.4. He's starting up there towards the front, inside the top 10, but then you see these numbers here, minus 33, minus 76, minus 55. he's not staying in the top 10, which is going to be an issue here this year, especially with the deep competition that High Limit has in their roster. And to just kind of add on to that a little bit, his top 10 efficiency in his career with the World of Outlaws is 55%. So that stat looks at the times that he starts in the top 10 and the times that he takes those top 10 starts and he doesn't finish in the top 10, right? So 55% of the time he is finishing in the top 10 when he starts there. The other 45% he is not. And that same number is 71% with the All-Stars. So not exactly the biggest numbers there for top 10 efficiency. Parker Price Miller is going to need to, learn how to stay or start up front. He's got that figured out, but to stay up front there as well and earn those points. Now, moving on to the prediction, what do I think Parker Price Miller is going to do this season? As long as he stays healthy, as long as everything goes okay and the team doesn't fall apart and he stays on the road, I think he's going to get somewhere between 1 to 3 victories and somewhere between 9th to 11th in the point standings. And that number kind of just goes back to the sprintcarratings.com here, where 10 drivers with High Limit have been better than him, as they say, over the last 2 seasons. And so that kind of led me to that prediction of 9th to 11th in the point standings. And so I think if he can accomplish that, that would be a pretty good year for Parker. And then they can build on that and then go into 2025. And if you take 5 guys away from that 9th place, that would put him, 4th, 5th, or 6th for next year, which would be putting him right there in the conversation for a charter in 2025. So that's all we've got for Parker Price Miller. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you think he will do next year? I really, really do think having Bernie there every single week is going to help him a ton. So we'll see what he can do. How many wins do you think he'll get? Where will he end up in the championship point standings? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Tomorrow, hopefully you can read that. We're going to be talking about Brenham Crouch, last year's IRA Sprint Car Series champion, who will be going on the road for a big year with High Limit in 2024. So we'll see you guys then.